If you look at the very best players in the world, one thing becomes obvious fast. They don't all look the same. Some are short, some are tall, some are lean and wiry, others are built like tanks, and yet they all dominate the game. There's no single physique that guarantees success. But here's what most people miss. There are bodies that are better suited for specific roles, moments, and styles of play. Football doesn't reward one body type. It rewards the body that fits the task. In this video, we're breaking down not just the obvious pros and cons of different body types, but also the hidden advantages people almost never talk about. We'll cover what each body type struggles with, what positions they're best suited for, and which elite players prove that you can win with almost any build if you play to your strengths. Let's start with the tiny build. This is when you're short and light, a build that would struggle in most other sports but can absolutely thrive in football. The disadvantages are obvious. Physical duels are brutal. Generally, you want to avoid contact with opponents as much as possible as a player with this build. Shielding angles are limited as well, which is a disadvantage when it comes to defending, pressing, and winning the ball. And aerial battles aren't just lost in headers, but also in second ball situations. This is quite a big disadvantage today, as set pieces are getting more and more important in current football, with even throw-ins being used as scoring opportunities and teams hiring set piece coaches. In the 2025/26 season so far, set pieces, excluding penalties, account for 27.8% of Premier League goals, which is far more than previous years. But set pieces aside, the advantages of this build are elite and often overlooked. Press evasion is huge. It's extremely difficult for opponents to get full body contact on you. You can stack rapid direction changes together, making you very difficult to pin down. Referees also tend to award fouls more easily in tight situations, which becomes a tactical advantage. Perhaps the most underrated strength is tempo manipulation. Players with this build often control the rhythm of the game better than bigger players, deciding when to slow it down or speed it up due to their quicker direction change and hip movement, basically being hard to catch. Because of the physical limitations, this build works best across the front line or as an attacking midfielder. So who are the players who succeeded with this build? Messi is the obvious example, but Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, David Silva, Xavi and Iniesta show how intelligence, movement and timing combined with this body type can completely dominate the game. With this build, the rule is simple. Avoid contact, control tempo, and let movement and change of pace do the damage. The next one is sort of related to the tiny build, but less tiny and more strengthy. It is the stocky body type. This is when you're short, thick, and compact. I like to call this the battering ram build. Many great players have this build, but what are the disadvantages? Well, carrying more mass per inch of height makes it more taxing on the body to accelerate and sustain speed repeatedly. Basically, you generally get tired faster if you have this body type, and you typically, even though there are many quick players with stocky bodies, won't have the greatest pace. Other weaknesses are, just like with tiny players, that it's harder to reach the ball in aerial duels and second ball situations. The strengths, however, are massive. Force absorption is a huge one. You can take heavy contact without losing balance or control of the ball due to the low center of gravity and strength that gives great balance. And like with the tiny build, a low center of gravity also makes body feints deadly, as even small hip movements can completely unbalance defenders. Shorter steps allow for constant micro adjustments, making ball shielding extremely effective. Another very interesting benefit of this build is that it leads to a quicker and harder shot. The muscle in the core and legs combined with the shorter distance the leg has to move to shoot the ball for a full range of motion makes shooting the ball hard more efficient, without having to swing the leg as far back as a taller player would have. Another often looked over advantage is shot stopping. When defending tightly around the penalty box, a stocky/wider physique is a plus since it covers more of the angles towards the goal. This is obviously just a slight difference, but many times that's what makes the difference between if a shot is blocked, deflected, or goes through on goal. This build thrives in box-to-box midfield roles, compact attacking roles, and sometimes strikers. With the stocky build, you dominate when the game becomes compact, physical, and chaotic. The next build is the fairly tall, lean, athletic build. Basically the players that actually look like professional athletes. Sorry, Messi. Some examples are Jude Bellingham, Erling Haaland, Mickey van der Ven, and Virgil van Dijk. There aren't many major downsides, but there are some. The main one, compared to smaller players, is that it can be harder to dribble past players because of the height. Dribbling is harder for tall players because their higher center of gravity, longer limbs, and slower deceleration make quick, tight direction changes and close control more difficult. They're far more effective dribbling into space with momentum than in congested stop-start situations. Another more subtle one that's often missed is that when you're lean like these players are, you have no fat that's protecting you. This combined with longer limbs means more stress on the joints and tendons and very slight but still, higher risk of injuries. Let's move on to the advantages. The reason the lean and athletic body type is so common in modern football isn't because it's the most dominant in any single area, but because it rarely becomes a problem. Against lanky players, the lean build usually feels more comfortable in tight spaces and quicker in short reactions, even if it gives up some reach and aerial presence. Compared to stockier players, lean players tend to handle transitions better. They recover faster when possession is lost and can cover more ground without fatiguing as quickly, even if they don't have the same balance advantage when moving with the ball. When facing smaller, lighter players, the lean build often sacrifices a bit of sharpness and close control, but gains defensive reliability and durability over the full 90 minutes. The lean athletic build doesn't win every moment, but it stays effective in most of them. That's why another hidden strength is dual role capacity. You can switch responsibilities mid-match without losing effectiveness. This is why many centre mids and fullbacks have this build. One moment they are defending a cross in their box, and the next they try to create something in the attacking third on the counter. Because of this adaptability, lean players can play almost anywhere on the pitch. Jude Bellingham, Son Heung-min, Mickey van der Ven, and Cristiano Ronaldo all show how dominant this build is in modern football. This build is practically engineered for high-intensity, position-fluid football. Now we move to the heavy or overweight build, which is the hardest to make work at a high level. This is not only players that are too fat, which would have a very difficult time making it to the highest level anyway, but also players that have a lot of muscle to move around. The disadvantages are severe. Repeated sprints cause rapid fatigue, more mass equals higher energy cost per acceleration, deceleration, and sprint. The nature of football with repeated high-intensity actions will tax the cardiovascular system of someone with this kind of build a lot faster. So as you get tired sooner than other players, you will have a harder time being at the right place at the right time, which is a problem when attacking but can be especially critical when defending, as space behind you can easily be exposed. That said, there are still overlooked strengths. Space denial is huge. Opponents are forced to go around you instead of through you. You often become a foul magnet, drawing set pieces through contact. In the air, stability matters as much as height, making you an aerial anchor. There's also a psychological intimidation factor that subtly influences opponents' decisions. This build works best in low mobility roles like target man, centre back, or holding midfielder. Examples of bigger players include later career R9 Ronaldo, Niklas Süle, and Akinfenwa. Realistically, leaning out dramatically improves viability. Also combined with pace, this build can be a threat on the wing to sub on later in matches. Adama Traore is probably the best example of this kind of player that can bully any player of the ball with his strength and will win any and every running duel too. He's looking more like an NFL running back than a footballer, and despite the obvious strengths, this type of body is still quite rare in football. Finally, we end with the lanky body type. This is when you're tall and skinny, to the point where it sometimes looks like a strong gust of wind could knock you over. The disadvantages are clear. Strength is the biggest issue, combined with the fact that balance will most likely be worse because of longer limbs and a higher center of gravity. Small drops in energy tend to affect performance more noticeably, as this kind of player generally has to be switched on 100% in every duel to not get bullied off the ball. Acceleration generally takes time, and a hidden weakness is deceleration. Long levers make it harder to break quickly in tight situations. Over time, joint stress becomes a factor, as knees and ankles absorb more load. But this build has some of the most misunderstood strengths in football. Once you reach top speed, long strides give you a late acceleration advantage in open spaces. It can give you the ability to flow past defenders and break lines if combined with great dribbling and preferably a bit of pace. Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike are great examples of this, and Thierry Henry as well in the past. These guys could be put in the tall and athletic category as well, but I think they are just tall and slim enough to be placed in this category. Also defensively, recovery reach allows you to get beaten initially and still poke the ball away from behind. Blocking radius is huge. You naturally cut off passing lanes without stepping out. In the air, timing and height often beat raw power. letting you win headers without full duels. You also cover ground efficiently, using fewer steps to defend large spaces. This build excels at striker due to speed in behind, reach, and aerial timing. Also defensive midfielder, where reach, recovery, and space control matter most, as well as centre-back, even though CBs ideally shouldn't be too skinny. To sum it up, the lanky build doesn't win by fighting. It wins by controlling space, timing recoveries, and using reach at the right moment. And that wraps it up. If you enjoyed the video and want more breakdowns like this, let me know your ideas in the comments. Did I forget any types of builds? I'm aiming to be more consistent, so stay tuned, and thanks for watching.